Welcome, fans, to a special edition of the Great North Wrestling Podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling, and today we're very pleased to have in our podcast realm both of the legendary tag team members of the Sheepherders, as I grew up watching them, or the Bushwackers, as they're commonly known, the Hall of Fame tag team of Luke and Butch, and John Crowther of the very successful book chronicling their Hall of Fame career, Blood, Sweat, and Cheers. Gentlemen, how are you? I'll start with you, Luke.
I'm bloody good there, Jack. And it's great to be on your podcast, mate. And looking forward to this whole session.
We appreciate you coming on. Butch, how are you, sir?
I'm a box of fluffy ducks here, mate. All the way from down under, 12,000 miles away. Summertime here, and the sun's shining, and the birds are singing, and it's a lovely day in the capital city of Wellington.
Well, we're really jealous up here in Canada, where it's the dead of winter. John, I wanted to start off with you in terms of if any tag team in wrestling history deserved a deep dive in their career, it was these gentlemen. How did the concept for the book come about?
Well, for those of you who don't know me, I've written a series of professional wrestling biographical comic books. So I'd been doing that for several years. COVID hit. I was finding myself with a little extra time on my hands. And Luke and I had become friends over the past few years doing a lot of the conventions together here in Florida. And Luke reached out and asked me how I'd like to write, I like to put quotes on it, how I'd like to write a real book. So that was kind of the idea that got us rolling with actually doing a non-comic autobiography with he and Butch. And then he introduced me to Butch. And really we got the ball rolling then. So probably right there at the start of COVID, just as we'd gotten into it. And then every Wednesday night, kind of like we're doing here on Tuesday, but every Wednesday night for about a year and a half, we would get together for what Butch liked to refer to as our three-ways. And we would chat for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, just talking about their careers, you know, all the way back from, you know, their early lives as kids growing up in New Zealand and through basically every incantation of that they ever had as wrestlers, from you know, as tag teams, from the Kiwis to the Sheepherders to the Bushwackers and everything in between and beforehand.
So with such a long and successful career of 36 years, how did you pare the material down? How did you come up with the timeline? Because literally you could probably have enough material for 3 really compelling books. How did that process work?
Well, it was kind of, you know, everything was rolled really natural. It was more or less, as I said, it was like having a conversation like we're doing now, but on a nightly basis. So what I was really getting out of both Luke and Butch were what they obviously saw as the highlights of their career. And the things that really stood out to them, be it the individuals they worked with or the territories they were in. And we cover every single territory. You know, like Luke said before, it's a lot of sex, drugs, rock and roll, and wrestling thrown in too. So it's not like a play-by-play of every match they ever had or anything like that. This is talking about a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, a lot of things people had never heard before, and really as they remembered it. So when you read the book, it's almost reads like you're having a conversation with Luke and Butch, which I think makes it special. In fact, I've had people comment to me that they can tell how in-depth the interviews were because it sounds like you're talking to Luke and Butch when you read the book.
Well, we seem to have temporarily lost Butch, but we'll try and add him if he comes back. Being so far away across the world, these things happen. So I'll throw to you, Luke, to begin with. The Great North Wrestling promotion, as you know, is a Canadian-centric promotion, and we try to focus on a lot of Canadian content to you know, enlighten our viewers. I wanted to get your impressions on working for 2 of the early promotions that you did in the country, Grand Prix and Stampede Wrestling, where you were the international tag team champions.
Yeah, we got as far as we could in New Zealand. We worked Asia. At that time it was Asia and Malaya, but now it's Malaysia. But it was they were at that time they were fighting for independence. So we worked all that in Australia and Japan, and the next move was to North America. Just like everyone else, they want to be in the movies, they go to Hollywood. And when you for wrestling, the only way a place for us to go to become into the big time was North America. But we didn't know, well, I didn't know when I informed Bush, I didn't know at the time that that timeline from 69 to 74 or 73, that Ontario and Quebec was the hottest place in North America for wrestling. You know, Madison Square Garden sold out once a month, but we had to, Toronto was hot. You know, Mayfield Gardens was hot. There was the Sheik was there all the time, and Quebec, all those big hockey arenas. We were filling those. You know, Grand Prix was running 3 towns a night. I didn't explain to you that Andre had been in New Zealand for 3 months in 69, 70. So we had worked with him, and he came into Grand Prix about 9 months before us. They were only running 1 town a night. When we arrived there, they were running 3 towns a night. The place was on fire. All the top talent from around America, a lot of the top talent from around America were in that territory at the time. And we didn't realize this when we were there. It wasn't until 3 weeks later, we're at a meeting, Grand Prix, in their office, and we saw these other guys, and we asked them, where they been? And they said, oh, that's when we learned they were running 3 towns. We didn't realize that. Butch and me were astonished at that when we first saw it. There's a lot of names that'd been in Australia that we'd known, you know what I mean? That we hadn't seen while we were in this territory. We were in one town and they were in the other ones. That's how hot that area was. And I never found out this till 10 years ago that they said that was the hotbed of wrestling in that era, in that timeline.
Do you have any memories working for Stu Hart during that time frame?
Well, certainly. The first night, mate. The first night, in Grand Prix, they said, we've had you on top. We were working one of the tag teams in one of the towns. They'd always have a single and a tag team on top in the towns. And we were used good all the way through because we knew Andre and we knew Killer Kowalski. He was the top heel. So anyhow, the Vachons who owned the territory said to us, if we, it's time, you've been here a year and a half, we'd have to start putting guys over and that, or we can ship you out. We'd rather ship you out and bring you back. And we said, okay, ship us out. And they said, there's a territory in Calgary called Stampede, and it's run by a guy called Stu Hart. We never heard of Stu Hart. We never heard of Calgary. Don't forget, in New Zealand, before we come over, there was no television wrestling. There was no wrestling on television till 68. No, there was no wrestling on television till in the 70s. You know what I mean? The mid 70s and that, and we didn't know that these territories, Stu Hart and all that sort of stuff. We didn't know that that was one of the most notorious territories in North America. All the talent around the country had been through, and USA too had been through Stu Hart. Anyhow, the first night we arrived there on the Thursday, Friday, it's the pavilion. It's in the fairgrounds where they've got the pavilion and they had the corral. Now the corral's a Saddle Dome now. You heard of the Saddle Dome, right, mate, Jack?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, before it was a corral, held about 12,000. The Saddle Dome holds over 20 now. Anyhow, the first night we worked in the pavilion, and when we got there, we just saw the booker, who was Archie Goldie. and he told us we want you to get DQ'd against the champions. It was the second to last match. So we went out and we worked against them, and I think we used a chain, and we got juice on both of them, and we had them laying down in the ring. You know, we were beating them up, putting the boot to them. Next minute, these kids were throwing in. 2 kids were throwing in first, and then next minute, another 2 kids were throwing in, and 2 were bleeding. 2 were bleeding. And the person throwing them in was yelling out, "Beat him up, champ! Beat him up, champ!" Yeah, the guy who was throwing them, we knew from before, you know, and he was yelling out, "Beat him up, champ! Beat him up, champ!" Anyhow, something happened in the end. The referee's coming or something. We got left the ring, and we hit and we come out, and we hit the hallway to go down to the dressing rooms, and there's this guy is 5'10", 5'11", standing there, about 270 pounds, very thick in the shoulders, but wider in the hips. And he had a gruff voice, and he said, what the fuck are you doing? You're beating up my kids." and then we realized that was, you know, we were told what Stu Hart was like, you know, you're slow talking, and you know, all that bull. Anyhow, it was Abdullah who was throwing the kids in. That's why 2 were bleeding. Anyhow, we didn't know that weekend, Saturday, the television was bicycle those days. There was no cable or satellite. You know, we did Edmonton on Saturday night. They never that Friday night was showing Saturday morning in Calgary at 10 o'clock. Us beating up all the kids and that. But then we went to Edmonton that night, and we went in the car with Stu. That was a week behind, so they didn't know us there. But this weekend was one of the weekends which Stu ran twice or 3 times a year. He would do Friday in the pavilion and Sunday in the corral in the same fairgrounds. Sunday we came out against the champions in a return match, and we won the belts that night. And I remember when we went out, we had heat. People were screaming at us and all that. We didn't have drawing heat. You know, we didn't have the heat to draw, but people were mad at us for kicking and booting the kids because they'd seen those kids on television selling programs for the last 10 years. So that was our first night. Right, Butch? Can you hear me, Butch?
I think Butch might be frozen.
He looks frozen.
Oh, well, we'll soldier on and see if he comes back. I wanted to... Sorry, go ahead, Luke.
No, you're there, the Butch.
He looks
Don't
like
leave us, Butch. Don't leave us.
Technology is a blessing and a curse, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you have any...
Jack, he's always
Yes, sir.
going AWOL. Hey, John knows this. Butch is always going AWOL on us.
Mate,
I think he's got his little, like one of his action figures sitting there to make it look like it's him.
That's the elephant in the room, isn't it?
Butch,
Butch, are you back?
Butch.
I can't hear anything you guys are saying except interference. Now and again, I can recognize one word, and I have no idea what you're talking about or anything. I can tell who's talking by looking at you. I can tell Luke's voice, but I can't hear one syllable that makes sense or anything. Just like the other day, just as bad. I have no idea.
Brutal.
So there's some connection wrong. I had coffee, which is here, and I put the coffee down, right? And I can still see myself on the thing here, holding the cup of coffee for at least 10 seconds.
Yeah, you're
I
you're
don't
frozen
know
in
what,
Butch. You're
what's
frozen in
happening.
time. We have to thaw you out to bring you back.
We'll see if that improves during the course of the podcast, Butch. Unfortunately, it's a
I
long
don't-
distance, and we have a lot of a delay sometimes, especially overseas. Luke, if I could ask you then, one of the favorite territories personally of mine growing up was the Pacific Northwest, and Don Owens as a promoter. And a lot of the fans today still talk about your feud with Martel and Piper. Can you just give us some general memories of working for Don and that feud in particular, if appropriate?
Hey, I just did on Vice Television. I just did the round table, and talked about Oregon. I don't know whether you saw that, Jack. I don't know.
Yes,
Whether
I did.
Yeah, that was a notorious territory. His brother was a drunk, and that. But we cut a long story short. We worked with Roddy and Ricky for 14 months. You know, we'd go into 6 mans. They'd bring in Jesse Ventura. You know, they'd bring in the Giant for a week. You know, they'd bring someone else in for a week where we'd do all the towns. You know, in a 6-man. And then we had Buddy Rose. Buddy was a very shrewd man. He saw joining our army that he'd get more long range, carrying our New Zealand flag and betraying America gave him more heat. And that's how, Buddy spent 10 years there on top. Where can you do that? You know what I mean? That's talking about Buddy. Anyhow, we ran and in that 14 months, Roddy told me just right before he died that we had 22 consecutive sellouts in Portland, Oregon, where we did the television. We had a great run there, a great run.
Absolutely, very memorable. Now, moving to your very bloody and multi-territory feud with the Fabulous Ones, that really got a lot of attention in the wrestling magazines at the time. I remember reading about it as a kid. I didn't unfortunately have the ability to see it up here, but do you have any memories of that feud working with Lane and Kern?
No, I had yeah, a lot of memories. They were wild matches, and we took that. Then I became a booker. After that we started that in Tennessee for Jerry Jarrett, and then we took the Fabulous Ones. We worked with them in Texas. We worked with them in Puerto Rico, and we worked with them in Florida. You know, and we drew everywhere we went with them. It was hot, and we did good houses. That feud, it wasn't as great as we did in Tennessee, because at that time we used Jerry Jarrett's father-in-law to get started. You know, he was a commissioner there, and we beat him up and sent him to hospital. And he was well known there before as a wrestler. So we got super heat with that. Super heat.
Did you find switching from territory to territory that you had to refine or change your style up or work in a different way, or did you always have that bent towards what we now call hardcore violent?
No, we never changed our style. I'd say but when we went to Crockett the first time in Charlotte, that was straight after Don Owens, straight after Northwest. He booked us down in Charlotte. He booked Snooker there. He booked us there, and while we were there, he booked Piper down there too. And we did wrestling there. We were rough and vicious, but we were at that time. We had to sort of be more, wrestling wise. We were rugged, we were rugged, but not bloody, you know.
Mhm.
We healed, of course, heavy and used the flag and all that sort of stuff, but it wasn't like the other territories, like Texas, Florida, and the Midwest and all that, where there was blood every night.
And a lot of the fans, just to jump around a bit, a lot of the fans here are asking about your run in Puerto Rico. Do you have any memories that stand out there? Any particular matches, feuds, etc., or experiences?
We have a lot of experience, experiences there, mate. Where the cars got turned over, from the fans. We had to get out of buildings and police cars. A lot of situations. I got sliced in my arm by one of the fans with a razor blade. A woman, and I had to go to court in one of the towns. Butch and me were lucky to get it. We're lucky to be alive after that. You know what I mean? That the Puerto Rico. I give, for instance, our first night ever in Puerto Rico. We're working in Caguas. Caguas is a wild town. It's a suburb of San Juan, right? Okay. Carlos tells us on the phone, we arrived there. This is the next day. We're working at Caguas. He says, I want you guys to come in the front door tonight, not the back door. We didn't know in front of the back door. He says, I'm going to be signing photos in the front for fans for free. So there'll be a big line of fans there coming to get photos from me. He gave us the time to come in, and he says, when you come in, attack me. So we got to an attack that was right down our alleyway. We arrived at the front, and that guy led us. We had to meet a guy outside. He took our bags. We walked in with the fucking flagpole. We split it, and it was the flagpole at the time was not copper or anything like that. It was steam pipe. You know what water steam pipe is?
Yes, sir.
And about that thick. I'd say an inch. It was inch pipe, inch and an eighth, something like that. And we split the middle, and he was behind a table. We leaned over the table, barred the people leaned over and started whacking them, both me and Butch. And of course, he got juice. He got blood. Now talking about he got blood, the fucking blood was all over the walls. When they finished there, the blood was all over the walls, all over the table, all over the photos, it was everywhere. When it was time to get juice over there, mate, they didn't do it like in the States. It was heavy. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then we got down. We left him. He was laying down there, bleeding to death. And we left. An ambulance come and took him away. This is our first night there. And we were the last match that night against Carlos and the Invader. The Invader comes out and the thing says, you know, the dressing room's full of people there. You can call out for someone for a partner. And the Invader said, no, I'm going to, this happened to my partner. I'm coming in by myself. Yeah, I don't know if you know, you've heard of the Invader.
Yes.
Yeah, he's notorious for something he did to a big wrestler who you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, sir.
Frank Brody. Anyhow, he comes out, blah, 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 speaks on the mic, and we say, we got a manager, tells him, you know, now it's best for you to go back to the dressing room, get somebody, come back. And he said, no. So we start the match. And then he shines. Then we start beating them up. Me and Bush, you know, we're tagging in and out. We're still tagging. We're tagging in and out fast, not letting him. And he's got a mask on, the Invader. Now we've got blood. And the mask is white. All of a sudden, that mask is red, completely red. And we're beating them up. Next minute, fucking the building, the back doors where the trucks come in to put the ring up, a bloody ambulance comes through that door and right up near the ring and halfway to the ring. And Carlos comes out with his head all wrapped up and a 4x2 or no baseball bat, I think, in there, hops in the ring and bang, 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 and we get out the ring. We don't satisfy the crowd fully. Get out of the ring. Now that was our first night there. He did the walking tall thing.
Mm-hmm.
Buford Prosser. I've seen that movie so many times.
And the remake with The Rock.
Yeah. So The Rock did it last time. Yeah. So that was our first night there, and boy, we were lucky to get back to the dressing room. I think he got us each once or twice with the baseball bat, and we stood out, and the fans came, and the security in that town was heavy, but we did get back to the dressing room. Now, to tell you about the dressing room there, kids used to piss in it. They had to put concrete blocks up the side of it because the guy tried to shoot one of the wrestlers through there. So they had to put, it was down lower and half of it was street level. And they had to put all concrete blocks up there to cover it so no one could shoot into that dressing room.
Wow.
That's how wild that town was, mate.
That's heat. We have a fan question from Jay who wants to know where the strut came from, the Bushwacker strut as it's known now.
Butch. It came from Butch. He, when we got the word from Vince, he said, I want you between the sheep herders and the Moondogs. Now, the sheep herders have been on TBS, TNT, Turner Network, off and on for 10 years, from 79 or 80 right up to 88. And the Moondogs have been on USA Network for about 6 years. And then we decided to do let's do something completely different when Vince told us that. And when we went out the ring, when we got thrown out the ring as heels, we'd swing up our arms and, scream at the fans, whoa, yay, you know what I mean? Just as healing, you know what I mean? To scare the fans. Whoa! The other one would go, yay! And Butch said to me, we're going to march to the ring, swinging our arms. And I cried. I said, no, I can't do that, Butch. I got fucking bad shoulders. I can't do that. And he put his nose right up to mine. He said, do you want to make money? Do you want to make money? Next minute I'm swinging. Next minute I'm walking to the ring, high stepping, swinging my arms.
And the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, that walk, I still do that going to the ring today. I've been in the business 7 decades, and they say I'm the second oldest in the world still wrestling in the ring.
That you kind of touched on my next question. If we have time, I'll ask about your experience with Watts. But you had quite a successful run in Jim Crockett promotions. You appeared in the Memorial Cups. You're all over TV. And the rumor had it that just before you made the jump to the World Wrestling Federation, they were poised to put the United States tag titles on you. Do you have any recollections of that run as a whole, and why did you make the jump at that particular time?
I'd be sending tapes into I'd been sending Betamax tapes, and you know what era that was? That was in the early 80s, to Vince McMahon's office. That's when it was senior, and then off and on I sent tapes to the office. You know what I mean? Because we were trying to get into that for a long time, but earlier on it was all big men there. Roddy went there when we were in Portland. He went for a tryout there, and that was 1980, and they never took him. He did an interview in that, and the Vince Senior never took him because he was too small. Roddy was around 200 pounds, 2'5". Yeah, so that was easy. when we got the call from Vince after, NWA, we were back in NWA. We actually gave, in 1980, we gave Crockett notice, 3 months notice. And we didn't realize you don't give Crockett notice. He gives you notice. He says, I'm going to finish you up in a month, in 3 months, or at Christmas time, and I'll bring you back in 2 years. And we gave him notice, which he didn't like. We had the Mid-Atlantic belts on at the time. The Mid-Atlantic belts were the pacifiers. The world champions were Ray Stevens and Jimmy Snuka, and we were the Mid-Atlantic. What they call a pacifier belt. Most of the kids today are happy when they get a belt around them. They don't care how much money they're making. We did.
Mm-hmm.
So we left and went to Puerto Rico. That's when we did the thing with Carlos Colon that time. And now we're back. Now we tried to get back to Crockett's with Dusty. Dusty came in and worked for me and against me and Butch when I was booking for San Antonio. Him and Blackjack came in, and Dusty was the booker for Charlotte and said, I want to get you back there. I want to get you back there. And he went back, and I called him and said, I haven't heard from you. And he said, oh, Crockett don't want you here. You walked out on him. So how we got back was we were the champions with Bill Watts' territory when Crockett bought Bill Watts out. And we got back in. That's how we got back in there. And as we were the champions for Bill Watts, UWS. Remember the UWS?
Oh, very, very much so. I was going to ask you a question regarding your run there too, but if you have the any good memories right now, I'd be interested in hearing about your UWF run. So would the fans.
Yeah, but I'm just saying now how I got to when Vince called, and that I haven't finished that question anyhow. So we're there, and we just done an angle. We're running with the Rock and Roll Express, doing great business in one of the towns, and then we did an angle with Barry Windham and Lex Luger. We did it, and it was put in the can to start in a couple of weeks' time, and that's when we got the call. We were in Columbus, and then I got a telephone call from a Pat. I didn't know who a Pat was, and I called back up, and he said, "I got someone to talk to you." And I heard, "G'day, Kiwi," and it was Vince McMahon.
Wow.
The rest is history. We've been trying to get into that territory for so long, and that was the place to be. When you went from NWA to WWF, you're going from being a wrestler to being a celebrity. And that was that.
Now,
Bill Watts' territory. That was one of my biggest mistakes. There. I love the territory, but I was booking in Puerto Rico at the time, and a good friend of mine from Australia who was booking for there was Bill Dundee, and he said, "I'm leaving," and I suggested you to Bill Watts to come in as booker, and then he put Bill Watts on the phone, and we blah 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 blah, and I said, I got to finish this angle I'm doing in Puerto Rico. We're still with the two guys, the Invaders. I've got to finish this run with the Invaders, so we just set up another angle, and when that's finished, I'll come in. Well, that was about 6 weeks down the line. Bill left, and they put Dickie Slater as booker after Bill left, and we came in about 2 months later, or 2 months later. And I said to them, "Are you finishing up Dickie Slater?" And they says, "No, we're going to keep him here and work." and I knew Dickie Slater from Florida and all that sort of stuff, you know, and I've been with him for a lot, and I respected the guy because he was a great worker. And most territories, when a new guy comes in to take the book, they get rid of the booker. You understand what I'm saying, mate?
Yes,
And
sir.
they wanted Dickie. Dickie was there. He'd been helping with the book before too. He was helping Dundee and that. And now they said we're going to keep Dickie and that, but we want you to take over. And I said that I'm not going to take over because I know if someone else has got the book and it's pushed down, he could, you know, fuck things up for me, screw things up. So I never took the book. And we carried on working with we started working with the Fantastics, carried on, and all of a sudden they brought in Kenny from from uh, from Texas.
Ken Mantell.
Ken Mantell. Thank you, John. They brought Ken Mantell in from Texas, and he brought his own crew in too. He bought the Freebirds, and he bought Jack Victory. He bought the blonde-haired girl that married what's her name, Missy Hyatt. He brought a lot of people in with him. We were still working with the Fantastics. We hadn't even. We just started. You know, we were programming and working around the territory. It's a big territory to work around. You know what I mean? You know, take a month or so to go around it, and then for the second time, the main towns for the second time will be a month later. And he came in, and all of a sudden, he put Jack Victory with us. We had someone else with us, but he put Jack Victory with us, and as our manager, blah blah blah, which was okay. But we're losing the Fantastics. Don't forget, they were 210-pound, 205-pound little guys with big hearts. We turned them into fighters, from wrestlers to fighters. Next minute, Ken Mantell puts a woman with us too, Big Maxine. Well, Mad Maxine, I forget what her name was.
Yeah, you're right. It's Mad Maxine. She trained with oh gosh. I think she had one or two matches in the WWE later on, WWF.
Yeah, anyhow, she was 6'2", a big girl, and she couldn't understand how these two little guys were beating us. That's how green she was. That's how she was with us too. So we had Jack Victory and we had Mad Maxine outside us.
Yeah, she was one of Moolah's girls.
And Ken thought, well, we're putting them against us will get us weaker. Believe it or not, even though we're losing, because we had two Americans under the New Zealand flag, we were getting more heat. You know what I mean? We get them to talk, to say, yeah, it's great being under with the sheep herders. And anyhow, we weren't losing heat. We got more heat. But anyhow, that's the part of that. And that's the only territory we walked out on. Bill Watts built a barbed wire cage. And we started doing these barbed wire cages around the territory. I'm talking about every night. And the places were, you know, we were drawing big houses. Before the barbed wire matches, we were drawing, you know, nearly sellouts all around the place. And all of a sudden there's barbed wire matches. And I come to see too, one day I saw one of the Freebirds checks. They were working before the mission, and they had no program. They were working against different teams. Maybe they had a program, I don't know. But they were working against different tag teams which were put together. And they saw that they were making more money than us. And so that's when Butch and me decided to do a no-show. And they called us and that. And all of a sudden, I've got Grizzly, or is it the Jim Ross, JR. JR was working for them, and the office, he was Bill's right-hand man, and Grizzly Smith was on the road. I think it was JR called me and says, Bill said we'll give you 500 a night before the match, if you come back. And of course, hearing that I knew, as soon as we finished these barbed wire cage matches, they were going to fire us, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that Ken Mantell, because he had his other crew to come in, his other tag teams to come in from Texas. So that was that. We never went back when they offered that, and that was the end of the run with the Fantastics. But we ran with them for, say, 5 months, 4 months. But I know if I had the book, we had a lot of things that we'd done in different territories, where Butch and me had done in different territories against tag teams, like angle-wise, we hadn't done there yet. And the angles we'd done in other territories were more heat-seeking. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was vicious and bloody, but we would have got really. We had the Fantastics were over now. We got them over as fighters, and the people loved them. When we come out, they all had American flags. The people were cheering for them. Or if you look at tapes, you'll see the girls screaming, wanting to get. They were the big thing there. That was our run. That was our run with Watts.
Thank you. A lot of fans have asked this question. I know it's covered in the book, but very memorable for old school fans. You remember the Sheepherders and the metamorphosis into the Bushwackers, which were more of a lighthearted presentation. Did when this was presented to you, or the idea germinated, was there resistance to such a dramatic change in your style?
No, they changed their name. We got home. Butch yelled out, "There's a package here, and it's got the Bushwackers on it." And he said they sent the wrong name. They sent the wrong names to us. You know what I mean? And straight away, after me being in office, knew straight away that Vince wanted to own us. You know what I mean? Change our name so he merchandise us, where he got most of the money. And then now he gave us the name. He never gave us the style or anything. As I said to you, they wanted to be us to be like the Moondogs and the Sheepherders, a bit of each. And due to us being seen so much doing that stuff, that's why Butch said, "Let's change everything." He said, "Let's change it," and that's how we come out with. We were businessmen. And we changed the whole thing, and a lot of the people say, "How could you go from being the most hated hardcore guys in the country and bloody and guts to doing what you're doing now, the comedy stuff?" And that was easy, dollars, and knowing too that we're going to get marketed, with your T-shirts, bedspread, ice cream. Hey, if I start telling you all the stuff they made games with us on. They did everything back in that. Now the only trouble was with those days, it wasn't the social media there. All the merchandise was in 2 pages in the middle of the wrestling magazine. 2 or 3 pages. Excuse me. You could put, and they advertised all the wrestling merchandise in there. Boy, if they had the social media today and online marketing, boy, with our stuff, characters, you could come out with more merchandise.
Absolutely. And you were involved in the WWF during what a lot of folks refer to as a golden age of tag team wrestling. You basically had programs or faced everyone. One of the premier ones that people still talk about is the many matches that you had against Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson when they jumped from Crockett. Do you have any recollection of that program, that very long program?
Well, it wasn't very long, mate. You've got it wrong there, Jack. This is the sad part of our tension with WWF at the time. We started working with them a few times. Then we did an angle with them, and we're doing a TV match in the town, and we're working with what do they call now? Fill-ins. What do you call them? Guys that come in to put you over.
Jobbers?
Yeah, I don't want to say that word, but
Enhancement talent?
enhancement talent. I don't want to hurt this guy's feelings, but jobbers, it's true, jobbers, and there's some great jobbers out there. Anyhow, we had some jobbers come in, and we're doing the Butcher's doing the battering ram at the end of this match, right? He got my head here running, and the guy sees us running turns, and my head doesn't hit him. It's Butch tackling them, chest to chest. This kid turns, and my head slips through Butch's and hits his hip bone, and I hairline cracks on 2 vertebrae in my neck, and I was out now for 10 weeks. You know, all my ears were buzzing, and you know how when you got a cracked neck, your equilibrium is not there so much, and your ears are buzzing all the time. So I was out for 10 weeks because of that. And that put that Butch worked singles with Iron and Tully for a couple of weeks, and then they cut it out, and that was the end of the whole situation. But they were the best. I'm going to say this. Out of all the tag teams, the Bolsheviks, the Rougeos, all the teams we worked with while we were there, they were the best tag team we worked with. We knew we would have had a great program with them because they were great workers. You know, they were great workers.
So you didn't work a lot of dark house show matches against them as the record?
No, that thing happened. We'd only worked a couple of weeks with them when that thing happened.
Wow, that's too bad.
And then Butch went worked singles, and that was a sad part of our career because that's when we were going for the belts. The only time we had to go for the belts. You know what I mean?
Why do you think they never decided to make you champions in the WWF?
We were characters, mate. We were standout characters, just like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I know they put the king. He was the king and all that sort of stuff and that, but they never put any belts on him. And that's but us. You know, when you got characters that stand out, when you look at all the characters they had there, I know Jake had the snake and all that, but when we came out from that entrance, we were the most standout characters at that time, in that period. You know, now I'm not bragging here, but look at all the characters. When you look at them coming through the curtains, Hacksaw Jim Duggan with a 4x2 and a ho and all that, he was a standout character. Of course, Hulk was, but that's a different thing. And then, you know, us coming out with the whoa and the yay and marching, the energy.
Mm-hmm. You didn't need the belts, in other words.
No. And when I booked in territories too, you know, I always put the belts on guys too who were wrestlers who needed the something to get them up, you know, up there.
Absolutely. We have a fan question again, wanting to ask you, Luke, about your funny Royal Rumble elimination in 1991. That's very memorable.
Now, mate, there's a petition out there now. I don't know whether you saw it. You know, Teddy Long started this a month ago. Bushwacker Luke for the 2023 Royal Rumble. So he made a petition out there, and I got 2,000 or 3,000 people on it. Put Bushwacker Luke in the 223 Rumble. Yeah, that's notorious. I was pissed off when Vince stopped using my clip for promotion. 218, he stopped using that march. Up to 218, I was on every pre-Royal Rumble with me marching out, picked up, and out the ring again and marching. They showed that, a clip. And then on all the promotion from 1991 to 218. and then he stopped. That was notorious. The funny part about that, we tell the story too many places. Butch tells it and he says, when I got the checks, and Butch and Luke got a check, I looked at Luke's check, it was the same as his. He said, I was pissed off. Butch was wild. He's joking about it, but he said, fuck, I was in for 20 minutes, 15 minutes. He was in. He was already in for 5 minutes. I came in and went straight out, and he was still in it for another 5 minutes.
So the money was the same.
Yeah.
You had quite a long run in the WWF. Can you just explain to the fans the factors that led you to depart?
Well, it's like anyone, mate. You know, we're characters. We're not the main eventers. You keep strong baby faces there, but we were a character team, and it was time to change. We'd been there from 1988, and it was 1996, and the start of '97, and that's when we had our last match for them. You know, we understood. You know, we looked at we weren't booked so much on the card. When you look from your 20 days, you get the running sheet was 3 weeks of bookings. And so I went and spoke to them and we departed. And of course, we departed on good terms. Because we, a lot of people can't use their names. You know, the names that Vince gave them and that, he pulls them up and that have to go back. As soon as we left, we opened a restaurant. I called them up and told them, and we opened a Bushwackers down on the steakhouse. You know, we had different things with a Bushwacker name, and Vince or the lawyers and that were very good there. I always notified them if I was going to use the name for anything. And I said, let me know if it's no good. And now we always come back and they said, Vince said, go ahead.
Yeah, that is rare for sure during that time.
Yes. And that was from 1996 onwards. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you as a longtime ECW fan, how did your appearance there come about?
Well, Paulie knew that we were free, and we were working at least 3 shots every weekend, a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, sometimes 4 shots a weekend. We were hot when we left WWF. Anyhow, who was there? Someone was there I knew. Someone was there I knew. Anyhow, they contacted us, and then they said, "You want to come in?" Oh, yes. Yeah, I come back and I said, yeah, we were interested in working for you. And that, so they come back about 2 weeks later and says, we're working 4 shows in Florida. One up north, outside Orlando, where they do it. And then one in Miami or something. There was 3 shots in Florida. And we came and worked, and one of them was taped. We were the Dudleys from Down Under. Dudleys from Down Under. Now, that was set up for us to break away from them and have a feud with them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But we came out as the Dudleys from Down Under with the glasses on and a bit of tape in the middle, and had one of the Dudleys, one of the manager Dudley, who managed the Dudleys, with us. And that's how that came up. Anyhow, we worked the weekend and we said we'd love to work for you, but we've got a lot of, we're booked fully in that and within these independent guys. And we'd like to finish up. If you give us a date, give us a month's notice, because I know these independent promotions have your name on their marquee. And if you don't arrive at these independent shows and you're the main event, the poor little company, it kills them. You know what I mean? If you do a no-show, that hurts them real bad on these indie shows. So I told them that. Let us finish. Funny part is, Next Friday, finished on Monday or Sunday. Next Friday or Thursday, we get a call. We need you tomorrow night. That was Friday. This is Thursday. We need you tomorrow night. I said, I've already got the tickets. We're going to a show. I told them no. They said, we need you tonight, tomorrow night, Saturday and Sunday. And I said, sorry, because I don't want to, hurt this independent wrestling promoter. So next week, a message comes back. It looks like you don't want us, so we don't need you. Bye-bye.
Well, I see that the hour is literally flown by. We have a lot of fan questions, more material to cover. But John, can you advise the fans where they can find the book and support it?
Yeah, if you're interested in getting the book, you can just look it up, Bushwackers, Blood, Sweat, and Cheers. We are anywhere that you can access Amazon. So whether it be Amazon in Canada, whether it be Amazon in the US, Europe, I'm trying to think, Australia, I think, has an Amazon, Germany. We are all over the place. So you can find the book. We have it both in paperback form as well as in Kindle format, if you're one of those that like to read on your little Kindle or on your phone and such. If you're interested in grabbing a signed copy, Luke can follow up after me with the email address, but you can get them directly from Luke. And I also have a few copies myself. You can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, also on Twitter, because I know a lot of fans don't just want to read the stories. They kind of like to grab a little bit of that memorabilia too. So anywhere you can find Amazon, you can get the book, or you can also get it directly from either me or Luke if you're looking for a signed copy or something.
Yeah, if you're looking for a signed copy from me, you go to bushwackerbrand@gmail.com. You email me, bushwackerbrand, BUSHWHACKER brand@gmail.com, and you send your name and your address, and then I will email you back, tell you PayPal. I'll tell you the PayPal, and you send me the money, and the book will be in the mail, signed by me.
Excellent. Do you have any other social media, and maybe I don't know?
Yes, I do. I have Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. It's all Bushwacker Luke, and it's my head on the world. There's a world map, a round circle, and my head's in the middle. Bushwacker brand. It's bushwackerluke.com. Bushwacker. That's bushwackerluke.net is my website. Bushwackerluke.net is my website. I got photos and memorabilia on that, and then Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook is all Bushwacker Luke.
Well, we'll see. We'll post later if Butch has any social media or contact information. I don't think he's having much luck. You know what?
What's Butch's Facebook, John?
It's Bob Miller. Bob Miller. He doesn't really do a lot of social media, but you will see, or if you even see some of the posts that Luke and I have done, we generally will tag Butch in there. He doesn't do a lot of posting himself, but he is on social media. He is on Facebook.
Great. Well, encourage.
Butch is looking at me straight. Butch is looking at me now.
Well, we nonetheless we appreciate Butch coming out, and certainly Luke and John. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. Encourage the fans of the Hannibal TV to check out all your projects, and thank you very much for coming on the Great North Wrestling Podcast tonight.
Yeah, Jack. Thanks again.
Welcome. All the fans on the Great Northwest Podcast. This is Bushwacker saying, I love you guys, and I'm out. Whoa!